Welcome around the Workstand. We're back here. It's me and David back again to talk about an exciting topic, something that, believe it or not, in 2026, we still hear these sorts of myths as it relates to selling online. So, David, you come up with 5 of these myths or 5 of these perceived barriers to selling online, and we're going to go through those today and explain why they're not really valid. They should not stop you from selling online, right?
Yeah, and from the retailers I talk to, to this day, I hear at least one of these being mentioned, and it's, today we'll kind of outline why those, or how these are debunked.
Yeah.
So,
And what I'll do here is I'll run through them just real quick, name them off. That way you know what we're going to talk about, and if you want to hang around, that'd be great. So the first one is that small retailers lack the scale and infrastructure to compete against price and the reach of e-commerce giants. We'll debunk that one. The second one is retailers' sales potential is limited by their physical inventory. It's not about what can fit in your 4 walls. The third one is increasing e-commerce order volume requires a proportional increase in staff. Not true. Not true. The fourth one, competitive e-commerce requires massive upfront investment in custom web development. Certainly not true. That's what we do here. And the last one is the high cost of shipping bikes and components makes e-commerce margins unsustainable. We'll debunk that one too. And then stick around because David's got a pro tip for you at the end that we're not going to tell you now to hopefully get you to stick around. So back to the top of the list, David. Small retailers lack the scale and infrastructure to compete against price and the reach of e-commerce giants is something we certainly still hear a lot. Tell us why that's not necessarily something to stop you.
yeah, I hear this all the time, and it's definitely perceived. We're too small. We're too small of a company. I can't compete with the big powerhouses of REI or Jensen or just larger retailers. But really, looking at this, utilize, think about local pickup, right? Same day service. Those are the things that you can compete 100% on that they can't touch, right? They can't. If you're on the East Coast, the bigger retailers are not near you, perhaps, right? Or even the West Coast, and you can offer those services, niche products as well. Your curated inventory. So if you're carrying a brand that not a lot of shops have, or not a lot of these bigger box stores have, then hey, people are they're gonna find you organically, and they're gonna pick on your store to buy.
Yeah.
So.
Certainly price is one of the factors. I don't find that for the majority, certainly for some shoppers, it's all about price. But for the majority of shoppers, price is a factor. It's not the factor. And we know that some 90 some odd percent of all sales activity starts with an online search. If you present yourself there, those other factors, like you mentioned, the fact that it's locally available, you can touch it and feel it and try it on. I've been struggling with trying to find the new helmet and driving to bike shops trying helmets on to figure out what I'm going to buy because I don't want to just order a helmet blind, and I'm kind of in between sizes. So there's all sorts of other factors that do have an effect on when a consumer buys. And even Google, as it presents results, both paid and organic, wants to favor a local result. So don't let the fact that you just perceive price to be the only thing people care about or the size of an e-commerce giant. Those aren't the main factors involved in local consumers buying the things. It's just the same reason you have people that shop at your store. They always have an option. You've presented something that turns out to matter more to them. That same thing applies when you're selling online.
And also think about like the word success and like what is that? It's going to mean different for everybody, for every retailer. Success could be, you want to sell off your old aged inventory, right? Success could be you want to do, $5 million online sales, or it could just be you want to do 10 grand a month in sales and just sell off some things here and there and and be relevant online.
Yeah, it could just be that you want to appear to be a modern retailer to your loyal local customers, and this is another way to do that. Wonderful. All right, so number 2, a retailer's sales potential is limited by the physical inventory they can fit in their 4 walls.
Yeah, and I talked to a lot of small stores. I've worked at a small location before, and they're doing quite well. Utilize features that we have, such as Supplier Sync. Use their warehouse as your warehouse. It shouldn't be I have to special order it. It's you got to get it from your warehouse. It's just like that. It's that kind of that thought, that culture of using their warehouse is really to help you break down that myth, right? And just that philosophy of like that's my warehouse too. So you just like go get it. That's all.
Yeah.
But it's great.
Yeah, I think that's very true. And I really wish the industry would get rid of the term special order. I think
Oh yeah.
consumers these days look at you like, what's special about it? I can order this stuff, a lot of these things, or a similar product anywhere. It's just an order. But I love that tip is use those warehouses, but mentally treat them as your warehouse because they are. They
Yeah,
just happen
right.
to be big warehouses you don't have to pay for. And that's a beautiful thing. So leverage that. It's the same thing that huge national players like Home Depot and Best Buy use. You have that same opportunity, that same technology within a Workstand website to do the same thing with it, leverage it, and make it work for your business.
Yeah. Especially if you're using warehouses such as like JBI or QUP. I mean, all these things most of their products are available to you within a matter of like a day or two. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
And drop ship from those warehouses too. So sometimes you
Yeah.
don't even end up touching those products.
It's a nice segue. Go ahead.
Nice. Segue to number 3. Increasing e-commerce order volume requires a proportional increase in staff to manage all the logistics and packing and shipping. Not necessarily true.
Not at all. Yeah. You again utilize supplier fulfillment in this case, right? So use those warehouses, use these resources to have these companies, ship things on your behalf. You don't have to touch the product. You don't have to find a box for it. You don't have to find, packing tape that you just ran out. You got to run to Ace Hardware and get some new tape. Use them to do this for you. It's a very, very minimal cost. They're very efficient. They get it out same day. It's great. It's a great resource.
It's a beautiful tool to be more efficient when it fits. But the cool thing is you can use it, not use it as each order comes in. So if you get an order and it's sitting on the shelf and you want to move what's in your inventory, great. Pick it up, put it in a box, ship it, or have it ready for in-store pickup. If it's something that you don't have in stock and one of the warehouses does, push the button. It, like you said, very moderate cost, both in the processing of it and the shipping, to let that warehouse pick, pack, and ship on your behalf. And your customer's just happier that way because it got there quicker. Let's see. The number 4 myth we're debunking today. Competitive e-commerce requires a massive upfront investment in custom website development, expensive hardware, and a high burn marketing budget. Not true.
Yeah. On this one, you can start small. Start with local ads that just drive traffic to your store, to your website. You don't need to do this, huge thing like, oh, I'm going to do thousands of dollars worth of ads, Google ads. You start low, and as you increase your business and your awareness, then you can kind of increase as you go along. But it doesn't require this huge budget right away. I talked about this before, I think on a webinar before, but reuse boxes. Recycle old boxes you get from your distributors. Packing materials. You don't need to buy extra boxes. You don't need to buy packing paper. Just use what you already get. You get it every single week. Just save it. It's pretty easy. Put it in a bike box and just save it as you go along. And work with what you have. It's not too difficult. Shops or customers understand you're buying from a local dealer or from an IBD. It's not going to be this this really put together thing. Obviously, we don't want to use boxes that are damaged or have a hole in it. Make it as professional as you can, but it doesn't need to be drop down like 100% professional, like in terms of presentation. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I love the steps. I always talk about that with clients because this comes up an awful lot. How much does it take? Well, look, there's always steps. There's steps you can start to build with things like organic search, and the website does a good job on its own. And a few bucks a month towards a Google ad can really make a big difference. We get data from that. Digital advertising is something where we can prove that it works, what's working and what's not working. We use that data to make a decision to grow. And look, I agree with use the boxes. You want them to, don't use a torn up, nasty box. But wouldn't it be a great problem if you couldn't keep up with those boxes? And that would mean there's more orders and more activity and more margin to be had. So start small, but start somewhere and do something to help grow with these tools. I think that's the advice there.
Yeah.
And then number 5, the final on the main list, the high cost of shipping bikes and components makes e-commerce margins unsustainable for smaller retailers. We've talked about some of that already, but what are the specific to bikes? What are the details there?
Well, so I'll start with bikes. Use third-party shipping companies like Bike Flights or Kitsuma to really cut those costs down. I talk to retailers all the time. They're still using UPS or their own FedEx account, and the reality is, for a small IBD, your discounts, as much as your account manager might tell you, are your discounts are very minimal, and because you're not doing the volume that Bike Flights is doing or that QP is doing, so you're not going to have the best discounts. But if you use Bike Flights or Kitsuma for bikes, it'll bring your costs a lot down. Companies called Shippo or like ShipStation. There's Pirate Ship. There's a whole handful of them. Again, those will also cut down your costs when shipping a helmet across the country. I talked to a dealer, and they were pretty adamant that it costs $45 to ship a helmet across the country. I'm like, that's just absolutely not true. It's like $10, $15 at the most. But use these companies to really bring your costs down when it comes to shipping.
Yeah, use the tools that are there. And look, before we get on to the bonus pro tip, I don't want to seem flippant about this because there are challenges. There are new processes to learn and put in place. There's staff training to do. There are steps, and it does take a different, somewhat different approach. A sale is a sale to some extent. Mm-hmm. How it's executed can change. So I don't want it to make it sound like you don't have to do anything and all this stuff's magic. It does take some effort. But I think the point here is that a lot of stores are avoiding this because of a perception. And that perception is certainly changing over the years, and it's certainly different now than it was 5 or 10 years ago. And there are tools there that let you preserve some margin by saving cost, and tools that let you leverage existing inventory that you haven't paid for yet, warehouses. So the point here is it's not to sit here and say it's all unicorns and rainbows. There's certainly some challenges, but those challenges are overcomable, and there's a lot of tools, and we can help. We've got a lot of experience, and we can help. So I don't want to make it sound like, Dave and I think it's easy. It certainly takes effort. If it was easy, everybody do it. But you can do this no matter the size of your store if you put a little effort into it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, those are good tips. What about that bonus pro tip, David?
When I worked in retail for all the years I did, we were pretty. We had a philosophy that we're not a museum, and so the idea here is to turn your museum into a cash flow machine. So let's get rid of all your items that are not selling. If they haven't sold in your store in the past 3 or 4 years, chances are they're probably not going to sell the next 3 or 4 years either in your store. So open your doors up to other markets outside of your current market, and let it sell, right? And get rid of this old product that's been sitting there for ages. Discount it, get rid of it, right? So even if it means that you're making you're not making any margin at all, or you're giving this away, at least it's gone, right? And just get it out for many reasons. But let's put something else back into your store that can generate positive cash flow and positive profit with your store. So,
do you really see stores that have 2-3-year-old pieces of inventory in them?
Is that a joke? Yes, I see it all. Yeah, I see it all the time. Yeah, it's crazy, and I get it, right? I don't laugh about it, to say it's nuts, but it's just a focus, right? We should be focusing on these things, and again allowing ourselves to really promote these things and get them out and sold. Like they always the saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? So all our products they're good. It's good, even if it's an old rim brake bike, right? There's a lot of people who don't like disc brakes, but you get it out there, right? Put it on sale. Let people buy it from you. Let people ship it to the customer, right? So chances are, shipping can be done with a lot of manufacturers if it's that old, right? If it's aged, get it out. So
we certainly, it happens. In the world of retail, there's so much going on. There's so much a bike shop owner or manager has to oversee. Sometimes that inventory sitting over in the corner, it's easy to lose track of it. And you look up and it's been a year, 6 months, or a year, 18 months. And you talked about this in an earlier episode. It's one of the reasons that you want a good stocking and merchandising plan so that you on a regular basis as part of your normal process is keep the inventory out in front of you. So the bigger the storage area in the back, the easier it is to lose track of that stuff. So again, we're not saying it's simple, but when you find yourself in that situation, stop digging the hole and pull that stuff out and get it gone. I was taught in the car business years ago by a very sharp used car manager that those are not cars out on the lot. Those are little piles of money. And if that little pile of money is not moving, we need to get rid of it one way or the other so we can turn that into something else that we can sell. And I think it's the same way in any retail, that look at that inventory not as if it's a bike or a helmet, but it's a little pile of money that you've invested. And the longer it sits there, the smaller the pile gets over time. So get it gone, turn it into something you can sell and make margin on. Anything else before we wrap it up? Oh, and I'll tell you this. If you love this and you think, they're right, maybe I should take a little bigger cut at this and step into this a little more, David's here to help. I'm here to help. David's your expert on that. Reach out to us you can reach David at david.w@workstand.com. David.m, excuse me.
Sorry.
We have too many Davids here. David.m@workstand.com. Schedule a time with him. He'll walk through, look at your inventory specifically, and help come up with the plan. The digital advisor services that we offer are built exactly for that, to help a store get back on track when things have drifted over time. With that, David, what else? Anything else before we wrap it up?
I think that's it. Have a great weekend, or when this is coming out.
Whenever you're listening
Whenever
to
you're
it.
listening to this, yeah. So
Just whatever, if it's Tuesday, just stop and have a great weekend.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Well, thanks, David. It's good to chat again, and we'll see you around the Workstand.
Thank you.